My name is Claire, and I'm a motorsport racer. When racing on the tracks, I'm always facing perilous situations head-on. That's why doing a thorough pre-drive check is so important. I make sure my helmet is in good condition, as it's easy to sustain head or neck injuries. In case of a car crash, this fire retardant suit protects me from serious burns. And not forgetting my race car. From the brake fluid to the tire pressure, everything needs to be checked to prevent it from spinning out of control. On the tracks, there's always the danger of sustaining injuries, but that doesn't mean I'm any safer off the tracks. In fact, like every woman, I have a 1 in 13 chance of getting diagnosed with breast cancer. That's why I check my breast regularly, and why you should check yours too.
I'd like to welcome everyone to our talk today that is featured around the International Women's Day global theme, and that of course is Embrace Equity. And this fireside chat really is about making sure it's an all-inclusive gathering of women from just all walks of life. Now, our theme for this chat is what I wish I knew about breast cancer before I got it. Now, I think wherever we come from, just background, career, fitness, health-wise, I think it's a fact, especially in Singapore, really, I think worldwide, that we as women, live life in the fast lane. We're constantly just looking for that finish line in whatever we do, just to feel accomplished. And I know for myself personally that, as a mum, as a business owner, as a daughter, I'm guilty just really constantly of getting caught up in doing multiple things at one time. And when I do have time to myself, I just kind of zone out and don't think about anything. And really my idea of looking after myself sometimes can get a little bit skewed, I think. And we really need these reminders daily, weekly, monthly, just to come back to the basics. Now in 2021, as you saw just now, that video, I was invited to be part of the Breast Cancer Awareness Month ad campaign. And it was really an amazing, thought-provoking video that you just saw. And of course, I was invited there not because I have had breast cancer, I haven't, but I'm well known for being a female race driver, and I had a story really to share about the extreme sports that I do. And the statistics involved in a high-risk situation. In the video, you can see we made comparisons in the ad about, as a race driver, what I really needed to do pre-checks and what I need to do to reduce the risk of accidents and ensure that everything is smooth and working order, just like racing. There is a need to do breast tracks and mammogram screenings just to ensure early detection of issues that may crop up. Now, the campaign, as you saw, statistically, it was proof that breast cancer really is far more lethal than me getting into a car and getting out on a circuit at high speeds, potentially having a track. Far, far more, you can see it. And really in support of IWD, the Breast Cancer Foundation really would like to present now this short reel on some of our breast cancer warriors and survivors and their message to anyone who has been touched by breast cancer and the importance of early detection. to thank these ladies featured on their fight in the breast cancer journey. And really with that, we have three amazing people, successful women in their own right here today. We'd like to welcome here Michele Orrson. She is a nutrition health coach, 3 times cancer survivor, author of Beyond the Pink Ribbon book. And she also blogs about her breast cancer journey on lightscanceraction.wordpress.com. And we also have with us from Singapore, we have Julianne Danielle. She is an ex-private banker and founder of Strongbold Grateful, Inc. She's also a breast cancer survivor and a motivational speaker and presenter with a focus on personal transformation. And last but not least, we've got Dr. Trishna Ramesh, and she's a consultant breast radiologist and author of many publications and international presentations. She's also a breast cancer awareness and early detection advocate. I just want to thank you guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's a very meaningful session. It's my absolute honor to be here to speak with you on the topic of what I wish I knew about breast cancer before I got it. Now, we just want to get to know these guys very quickly. First up, let's just have a lovely chat with Dr. Trishna. As mentioned, Dr. Trishna, she is a consultant breast radiologist, and her daily job and passion is to go through these results and statistics and look for signs of breast cancer. Dr. Trishna, thank you. Welcome. Let's start off this chat. What are the common risks associated with breast cancer?
Hello. Thanks, Claire, for the kind introduction and your kind words. Hi, I'm Dr. Trishna. As you mentioned, I'm a breast radiologist. My work revolves predominantly around breast cancer diagnosis. So talking about breast cancer and the risk of breast cancer, many times I come across women who say that, oh, I don't need to worry about breast cancer. It doesn't run in my family. So the most important risk factor for having breast cancer is not genetic, it's not familial, it is being a woman. You will be surprised to know that 75% of breast cancer occur in women with no family history of breast cancer. That means just being a woman and just increasing age itself is a risk factor for developing breast cancer. And that is the reason why the high incidence of breast cancer is seen. Having said that, there are certain factors which are beyond our control, such as increasing age, genetic mutations, or early menarche and late menopause, or unfortunately being not bearing child, nulliparous status, or any previous breast biopsy which has proven to be with a result or outcome of atypia increases one's risk 4-fold to 5-fold to have breast cancer. Or the same ways, if there is any previous history of a breast cancer, the woman is vulnerable to develop a breast cancer again. And also not to forget dense breasts, which everybody has a different density of breasts, and we'll talk about it later, but dense breast in itself is a risk factor, which is more stronger a risk factor than a family history of breast cancer. These are the factors which are, or the risks which are not under our control, but there are certain factors which are lifestyle related, and they are under our control, such as if we are able to act upon them, we will be able to reduce our risk. That's the good news. We can reduce our risk for developing breast cancer in our lifetime. These range from something like usage of estrogen for hormone replacement therapy, or a diet or which contains fat and alcohol, or maybe lack of exercise, or smoking, or weight such as obesity. So to put it positively, I often tell my patients or friends and family that simple things such as 30 minutes of a walk every single day reduces our risk of developing breast cancer by 20%, which is a huge number. If a woman is taking any kind of alcoholic beverage every day, she's increasing her risk for developing breast cancer by 10%. So definitely, I'm not saying that it is something which should be stopped, but definitely you have to be mindful of this particular habit. Breastfeeding in itself, if a woman is able to breastfeed in her entire lifetime for at least 1 year in total, she's reducing her risk for developing breast cancer by 20%. If a woman has a healthy lifestyle diet and is able to keep her weight under control and reduces her weight from obese status to a moderate status, even something like 10 pounds of a weight loss can reduce her risk by 10%. And if that goes to 20 pounds, she's reducing her risk by 50%. That is a huge number. So limiting hormone in her hormone replacement therapy, particularly estrogen, has been shown to reduce the risks for developing breast cancer. So these are the few risk factors which work against us or against women for developing breast cancer.
I think the important thing is that really people need to understand that breast cancer does not discriminate. I mean, like you said, just being a woman, that should be the biggest factor. You're a woman, you can get breast cancer.
Yes.
Let's just talk a little bit why we need to debunk these myths. I mean, you've spoken about all these factors. Why do we need to debunk them? I mean, there's a lot of old wives' tales, all these things that we think we hear from people. I mean, you have scientific backing.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the first myth which I told you about the family history is a very common myth, but there are many myths that, revolve around. First is breast cancer and as well as mammography. I would take this opportunity to really talk loud about and clear about them, that why we need to debunk these myths and what are these myths. So many a times women keep, when I do a lot of breast cancer screening, persuading talks, and I come to know from them as a feedback that, oh, I don't want to do a mammogram. It involves radiation. Why should I involve myself in something that contains radiation? But let me tell you, we are not so aware, but in the today's day and age, we are living in a world which has a natural background radiation. That includes the radiation from the cosmos, the ultraviolet radiation, the radiation dissolved in the radon in the air, that is sterile activity radiation, or the one which is dissolved in the water, organic matter. So this is something which is not under our control. Similarly, staying at a high altitude, traveling to high altitude also involves radiation, which is also because of higher dose of cosmic radiation. So much so that when you're taking a flight, for example, that also involves radiation. So if you look at the radiation dose involved in a mammogram exposure, like one mammogram includes 4 apertures, which gives you a radiation dose of 0.4 millisievert, the radiation unit. And if you compare this with a natural background radiation or that involved in flight, it is equivalent to like a 7-hour flight, for example, includes or gives you puts you at a risk of having a radiation of 0.08 millisievert. So it is like a dose of one mammogram is equivalent to 7 weeks of staying in a natural background radioactivity, or maybe 4 weeks of staying at a higher altitude, or even taking like 5 transatlantic 7-hour flights. So we don't stop taking flights for radiation. We don't stop traveling for radiation. We don't stop living with the fear that I'm exposed to radiation. Then why should women have the fear that they are exposing themselves to radiation risk? Because this radiation is going to be a useful one to detect cancer at an early stage, and early detection saves life. As we said that there are risk factors, but we cannot eliminate the risk factors which are not in our control. So all we can do is detect these cancers early and save lives. Another myth, or maybe a fact which exists around mammographic screening, is that people feel and have a fear that, oh, I don't want to go through that painful study. You see, I don't want to do mammogram. It is very painful. I've heard a lot from my friends. But when you understand the necessity of that compression, you are kind of a little more prepared for taking that study. So for example, when a woman goes through labor pain, she is prepared for it. She knows that it is not going to happen without pain, no gain. But when you accept that it is a necessary pain to go beyond that and go to the diagnosis or go to get something, then it becomes easier to face it. It is a very momentary pain. So what happens is when a woman is undergoing mammogram, the breasts are compressed, and that causes a little bit of discomfort. And this compression is necessary because breast is a spherical organ. And when you have to take a 2-dimensional picture of it, you need to flatten it. You need to flatten it in a way that the breast tissue can be spread out, and a picture can show us the details of that. X-ray can show the details of the anatomy. And when you kind of do this can lead to discomfort. I admit that it is not easy, but when you are prepared for it, you will be able to understand that pain is an acceptable pain and much better than there is a difference between pain and suffering. Suffering is when things happen and they are not under your control, like such as a delayed diagnosis. But pain is under our control. You can work around the pain, try to schedule the mammogram in the phase of the cycle, which is less painful, such as just after menses, or reduce your caffeine, or simply tell the radiographer who's there with you, you're not alone in the room, that it is really uncomfortable, so reduce my compression. So these are the factors which work around the pain component. So we need to break these myths. And the most important thing which exists around mammographic screening as a myth is that people feel that, oh, the state of art medicine, you see, even if it happens to me, I'm good. I'm in good hands because the science has advanced so much. Surgical options are so well there. But if you have to understand two things. One is that if there is a delay in diagnosis, like mammograms can detect cancer even before, 2 years before a woman can feel it. And by the time she feels it, they have already crossed to a size which is sizable, such as 1.5 to 2 centimeters. Sometimes they are already spread to the nodes, but mammogram can detect it 2 years in advance when they are small, when they have not spread to any other place. And that helps a woman to have less aggressive treatment options, such as breast conservation. They can just remove a lump in the breast instead of doing a mastectomy. The woman doesn't have to go through the ugly surgeries of mastectomy or axillary lymph node dissections or the toxic chemotherapy, the rounds. So all this can be avoided if you can. So the stage at which the cancer is diagnosed, it usually defines how is the prognosis and how is the survival. So it's really very important that the tumor stage is brought up by screening. So there are many myths, and I'll talk to them later about it as we go ahead. But these are the most important ones, which I feel.
Sorry, I'm very quickly, I'm just going to touch on this. What about people with breast augmentation? It's a very common factor, but also very taboo nowadays. Yeah. How do people do that? And just a quick idea for people.
Yes, so that's a very good question. The breast augmentation and implants we see very commonly, but that does not mean that you do not have the breast tissue. They are in addition to the breast tissue. So we need to take care of the breasts which are there along with the implants. So the way we're looking after the implants, we have to do screening, and they do special mammograms for these women who have implants. These are called implant displacement views obtained, like the implant is pushed a little behind and only the breast tissue is compressed. So that is not going to cause them any additional pain or any additional risk for the implants, but it is only and only going to check the breasts. So we should not have that. Women should not have that fear or apprehension that, oh, I have implant. How can I do a mammogram? You still very well can take care of your breasts in the similar way as everybody else does.
Thank you, Dr. Trishna. Okay, let's now move on and talk to Michele. Michele, you're a 3-time cancer survivor. Now let's go back in time and let people understand who you were before cancer, because that doesn't define you. But before you knew what you know now, what was your life like before breast cancer?
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for the invitation to be here to speak to everyone today. So as Claire mentioned in the introduction, I, like so many other women, had a very hectic life prior to my breast cancer diagnosis. I was in a leadership role at a Fortune 100 company. I was working 60, 80, 100 hours a week and completely ignoring my health. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't sleeping well. Ate what I could when I could. And with all the other roles of mom and stepmom and wife and daughter, as Claire said, there's just a lot, and it was a lot of stress and a lot of demands, and I didn't really focus on my health. And so it shouldn't have been a surprise when I was diagnosed with cancer, and that my health was suffering from all of that.
I think it's interesting to know. I mean, you've described the situation, your stressful environment. There's some things that you didn't do. How did you end up discovering that you had breast cancer then? I mean, what triggered it?
So I was very diligent about my breast cancer screening. So I did get my annual mammograms, and I did my self breast exams every month. And so I actually felt something first, and it wasn't necessarily a lump. That was one of the things that I learned in terms of different types of breast cancer and that they can present a little bit differently. And so imaging did not initially pick up my breast cancer. I felt it more as a pressure against my chest wall. And like if I hugged someone or if I slept in a certain position, it felt like I had a rock in my chest. And so I had gone back to my doctor for additional imaging. So I had both mammograms and ultrasounds, and all they could see was cysts. And so I was sort of sent on my way, come back in a year. And so as time went on, I'm glad I did not wait a year before returning. I went back to my doctor, and then in subsequent screening, they actually then did find it. So I have had what was called lobular carcinoma, which is a little, it's, I think, 20% or 15% of the breast cancers are lobular, and they're in, further back in the breast. So it was a little bit harder to find in the imaging. I think, 75 to 80% of breast cancers are ductal. So they're they present as a lump, and you might feel it a little bit differently. So that was something that I learned along the way, that there were different types of breast cancer and they did present differently. So that was how we found it. Eventually, it did come up in screening because I pursued that. And I think it's important to really know your body and to challenge people, or even doctors, right? If you're not feeling like you're getting the right answers, you know your body better than anyone. And it's important to do those follow-ups.
I love that. I love that. I think that's super important, that intuition that you had to go like, something really does not feel right. And a lot of times I think people tend to go, well, it's okay, the doctor said that, and like you said, they don't pursue it, but there was something nagging at you. And generally, I think if it's nagging at you, go and get it checked and ask for the other tests, because generally they won't run all these other tests, will they, unless you sometimes pursue it. What was the hardest part for you really on the cancer journey, as a 3-time cancer survivor?
So the first time I had cancer, I had actually kidney cancer, and it was a very small tumor. I had it surgically removed, and I just sort of continued with life without any changes. It wasn't until I was diagnosed with breast cancer that I knew it was kind of a big wake-up call that I needed to start making some changes in my lifestyle. But I think the biggest factor, my son was only 11 years old when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it's that fear that you're going to die before you've done what you want to do with your life, before your children are raised. It's always living with that fear of a recurrence. And so because I've had cancer 3 times, that's even a bigger fear for me. That's the thing that keeps me awake at night. And it's just, I think most cancer survivors live with that, in the back of your head. It's kind of always there, a little cloud over your head. If you feel ill or you have a pain somewhere, your brain will automatically go to, oh my God, it's back. And so then, the logical part of my brain needs to talk me off the ledge to say, oh, okay, nope, it's just a cold, you just, worked too hard yesterday. So it really is that fear, and just kind of, it's always in the back of your mind. To me, that's the hardest part, worse than chemo or losing my hair or really anything else.
Well, thank you, Julianne, for sharing that. Sorry, Michelle, for sharing that. Julianne, we're going to talk to another cancer survivor. And of course, I would love for you to really share with us as well your life before you diagnosed with breast cancer. And I think I see a common fact between you guys. You came from roles that were stressful, that were busy, probably a lack of sleep. Tell us about this journey that you've been on.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julianne, and thanks for having me here. I'm smiling because I resonate with what you're saying, Michelle, that it is really that constant nagging that comes at any time when we are feeling somewhat either not too well or something different. But also, Claire, that I resonate with what you said about being very busy. And Trishna, thanks for reminding me about lifestyle changes and its statistics. So a little introduction about myself. I was a very, very career-driven lifestyle. Constantly clad in 6-inch stilettos and, living the corporate responsibilities and that life. Busy person with networking for business and social life, exercise daily before work and act clean. And wine and dine as a lifestyle moderately, but always living back to back. So at the peak of my career, I realized that there was something actually very suspicious in the top of my chest. And I thought that I should use what I had learned at those lunchtime talks, which is touch, look, and check. So I did a TLC on myself, and I did actually find that common sense told me to get myself checked and an appointment with the doctor. And so I did. And, very quickly, everything was diagnosed within 2 weeks. I wish I had known many other things earlier, but at the age of diagnosis, I was only 38. Way under 40, no need for any of those checks and no family history as well.
So like I said, it didn't discriminate. And you were in your 30s, even more so, because we're always driven to get it checked at 40. But of course, like you said, something suspicious cropped up at the age of 38. Were you already aware about breast cancer? Was it something that you had already done, like going for regular checkups as such, or was this the first time?
It is actually the first time because there are a lot of campaigns that start at age 50, age 60, and some of them at age 40. However, I did realize that in different corporations, there are also policies and campaigns that encourage staff to go for, which also mentions that it's at the age of 40 and above. Being my late 30s, there was really no hint or any sort of inclination to do so. Unlike Michelle, I didn't find that there was a need to pursue, as nothing had cropped up visually nor physically. I had no feeling of that at all.
So super important for those in working corporations. If your company doesn't have these policies to go and check, get them made. I think, like you said, it really affects so many women. As a young breast cancer survivor, how did the breast cancer really affect your life?
I think being a younger cancer survivor, it is extremely challenging because first thing is our careers are affected, right? You have to stay away from the office for a period of time. The second is that we are ejected out of that life phase, whatever it is, whether it be family planning or in other responsibilities that we have in the society. I think these are the two main ones that really made a difference for me. The reason being that there is actually very little, there is actually quite a bit of taboo around the fact that one has cancer and also the fact that it is less common. So this really makes a big difference on the mental health, as well as my own self-image of who I am in the society and who I am to myself. So that was really a very, very challenging. And the most difficult thing for me was actually the self-image that changed drastically when it comes to breast cancer and our body changes.
Thank you so much, Julianne, for sharing with us your journey. I'm going back to Dr. Trishna now, and I just want to learn more about the mammogram screening options that we have. Now, of course, there's various screening options, like you've mentioned earlier on, to detect breast cancer early. Can you share with us more about things like the 2D, the 3D options, clinical, breast examinations?
Sure. Thanks, Claire. And thanks, Michelle and Julian, for sharing your stories and your journey. Before we go into the options of mammography, I just wanted to wrap up what they said and just trying to give my points into it that I really, really feel and I can understand. I may not be able to imagine how hard it must have been, but you guys are warriors in your own stories and heroes of your stories and inspiring others. As you mentioned, Michelle, that you had a lobular carcinoma and screening could not pick it up. I would just add to the scientific part or the imaging part of it that lobular carcinomas are rare, as you said, and sometimes they mimic the breast tissue. So it becomes very important, as you were very vigilant about your symptoms, were very careful that you went back. We also tell our patients that if there is anything intervening or anything in between two rounds of screening that you feel, don't hesitate to come back. And again, I take this opportunity to tell everyone that if you have any symptoms, whatever they may be, do not ignore them. Do not ignore them for whatever reasons. You can always go back and get yourself checked with an additional, if not a mammogram, an additional ultrasound can help, and any additional modality can help. And about 40s and the cancers, I would just like to add a few bits that, yes, you do see a lot of young cancers, young breast cancers. It is not uncommon. It is really not uncommon to see young cancers, and young cancers tend to be more aggressive. Why does this 40 figure work, or why do we recommend or guidelines, maybe American Cancer Society or Society of Breast Imaging or the National Cancer Network, everybody recommends to start screening at 40 is because 40 is that soft spot when the cancer incidence suddenly increases. The incidence of cancer, breast cancer in a woman in her 40 to 45 age group is 2 times that in 35 to 40. And the incidence of cancer in 45 to 50 is again 2 times of what is in 40 to 45. So essentially 1 in 6 of breast cancer diagnosed all years across in a woman's age of different years. 40s is the age where the maximum number of cancers, 1 in 6 cancers, and the maximum number of years of life lost are for the woman in her 40s because she's unaware, she's busy, she's a career woman, she's a caregiver for her family, she's looking after her elderly parents, and she's completely caught in this, completely unaware that she's at risk of breast cancer, and she needs to be screened of all the people. She's most kind of busy at the same time productive. So every life lost to breast cancer is precious. But a woman in 40s who needs to be aware, needs to be empowered with the knowledge of screening and her guidelines and her necessity for getting herself checked, whether it is a breast self-examination, which needs to be done every single month, and starting screening at age of 40 is extremely important. So multiple studies, like huge body of work of studies and research has gone into what happens for the woman who starts screening at 40. And it has been shown that you can save maximum lives if you start screening at 40. And a woman who does mammographic screening, she is at 40% less chance of dying of breast cancer. She may be detected with breast cancer in her lifetime, but she is 40% less likely to die because of breast cancer just because she did a screening, she did her checkups. So this is like reducing almost your risk to 50% just by doing the screening. So what are your screening options? Claire, I'm coming back to your question now. Sorry about that diversion, but I really feel like sharing this intensely because I do see young cancers, and I do see we are the ones when we do the biopsy or when we do the imaging sometimes or many a times, we are the ones who break this news to the patients because we see something worrisome and we have to let the patient know that I do see something and we need to pursue this further. We need to do something more. And although we will not be able to characterize it, we need to do a needle study. But I'm always in conversation with the women who I'm doing the scan for. And I do see that sudden shift and sudden change in the milieu when we break this news, that it kind of, it hits them hard. And it will definitely, because suddenly in few moments, the world collapses. In few moments, you feel completely different about everything, your aspirations, your dreams, your plans for yourself, your plans for just tomorrow. The two things which I feel they come back or that bother them is, one, that how will I break this news to my family? Who will look after them? And the second one is, did I do something wrong? Did I not look after myself enough? That guilt is extremely, extremely painful, because this regret could have been avoided if somebody would have, tried to keep reminding them, or, kind of giving them a pep talk that, yes, you cannot ignore your health. Your breast health is in your hands and you have to take charge of it. So that is really important to emphasize. So what are the ways that we can be aware and vigilant about our breast health is, one is breast self-examination. So there are three ways in which we can take care of the breast. One is a clinical breast examination. That is when you go to see a doctor, the doctor does the examination of the breast. Second is a breast self-examination, which every single woman after her 20s should be doing breast self-examination. We do not kind of give a start date, but we recommend or we encourage women in her 30s to do breast self-examination, because now we see a lot of young breast cancers. And this includes, at a particular time in the month, you try to touch, look, and check. That is, do this examination, which we will see how to be done with few videos to kind of tutorial for it. The second is, after the breast self-examination comes the screening. So there are imaging modalities that help a woman to undergo screening for the breast cancer. The time tested for years now is the mammographic screening. And why is it time tested? And because, again, a huge amount of work has gone and research has gone in to show how over years, scientifically, it has helped women across the globe to detect breast cancer. And it was found that mammograms can detect 85 to 90% of breast cancer. There will be still some breast cancers which may not be visible on mammograms, such as rare varieties or some things which mimic breast tissue, lobular cast cancers. Or if the woman has really dense breasts, the cancer can kind of get masked because of the background overlapping breast tissue. It's like looking for a snowball in a snowstorm. You can't. The cancer looks white, the breast tissue looks white, so we cannot see it so clearly. But still, mammograms remain the time-tested modality for screening. Apart from mammogram, there are ultrasound and there is MRI, which is available. And the recommendations and guidelines vary based on women who have a higher risk for developing breast cancer. That is, there are many tools to generate your risk for breast cancer. Women who have 20% or higher risk according to US standards and 25% risk according to other standards of Canadian, that if you are having a higher risk of developing breast cancer, you should be getting MRI done. But if you are an average risk breast cancer, you should be doing mammograms. So there are two types of mammograms. One is a routine conventional 2D, that is two-dimensional mammograms, in which a woman is undergoing mammographic acquisition or special X-rays of 2 pictures of each side of the breast. That is 4 pictures in total. And this is called the two-dimensional mammograms, where you get 4 pictures. Like the breast is compressed side to side and the breast is compressed top to bottom to get 2 pictures of each breast. Now, there is something called a new advanced technology, which is digital breast tomosynthesis, and also commonly or popularly called as 3D mammograms. So they are kind of images which are acquired in an angle of, like X-ray beams are sent out to in an angle to get multiple images. It's like if your breast is a book, you can read through the pages of the book. So you acquire thin sections of the breast and we can read the information in every section, just like a CT scan reads the body and cuts the body in different slices, the thin slices, and we read the mammogram pictures to see much more in details and avoid or kind of overcome the dense tissue or breast tissue, which is kind of mimicking or limiting our understanding of evaluation of the breast. So this is the 3-dimensional. Most of the places that they offer 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional mammograms combined, but even if it is a 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional, it is what is more important is getting a mammogram. If you get a 3-dimensional, well and good. But if you cannot, that does not make it any less important or any less informative. If you're getting a 2-dimensional mammogram, it does give you the same information. So screening with mammograms is this at the moment. Yeah.
Well, we've already spoken about what we can expect and the national guideline at the age of 40. They say, though, when you're 50 years and above, you only need it once in 2 years. Why is that, though?
Okay, so this is a very controversial question in a way that on one side, we say that as a woman is aging, her risk for breast cancer is increasing. 1 in 69 women in her 40s, 1 in 39 or 40 women in her 50s, and 1 in 20 in her 60s is at risk of developing breast cancer. This is her kind of risk she's going to have. And on the other side, we are trying to say that, 40 to 50, you do an annual screening. So Singapore screening program, national screening program, recommends women who are 30 and above to do breast self and clinical examination. 40 to 50, we encourage women to go for a mammographic screening after having a discussion or talk with the doctor. So doctors are encouraged to discuss this and encourage them to do a mammogram. From 50 onwards, women are given invitations or they're invited to come to do screening at a designated screening center, which is never too far away from your place because there are multiple screening centers across the island. So you think of it and you will have a screening center nearby. So there are designated centers which provide this service at a very subsidized rates for eligible candidates, that is citizens and permanent residents. And of course, they offer the screening to everyone irrespective of their status, but this is the program. And from 50 onwards, the screening is done 2 yearly, that is biannually. Now, the screening programs in different countries have a different design. They have a different format. There are a lot of school of thoughts that have gone into this, again, based on the scientific evidence. But the model of the story is, and the vision of a screening program is that they have to get the target audience, the target women in this age group of 40 to 70, 70% of these women should be getting their regular screenings at a regular intervals. So to include everyone, they have designed a particular program that they will be inviting women at this particular interval. But having said that, if you have a kind of a particular situation, like you have any kind of other risks, or you have dense breasts, we advise women to still do an annual mammograms, which is like doing, even if you are 50 or if you're 40, you should be doing annual mammogram. That is, we do in our practice, but we respect the fact that Singapore screening, national screening program offers mammograms once in 2 years so that everyone is on board to get it done. So that is a kind of situation. But if you ask me the guidelines in rest of the world, in different places, it is in a different way. For example, if I tell you about the US, they do American Cancer Society says start at 40, do annually. If US Canadians start at 50 and do biannually. UK, they do triannually. So there is nothing called a fixed definite thing, but given the incidence, it is advisable women should do annual screening. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Trishna. Now, I just want to drive home the statistics that I see in front of me, and I want people to remember this, that, in Singapore specifically, each day, 6 women are diagnosed with breast cancer and 1 woman passes away from cancer. If you really do the numbers, 6 days, 6 women a day, that's 180 a week, 2,160 people a year. I mean, these are just, numbers by me just multiplying, but it's super important. And the statistics that Dr. Trishna was talking about just now, about 70% of women who should be getting it done, I can tell you out of those, only 37.9% of eligible women in Singapore were found in 2019 and 20 to have had actually gone for mammogram. Only 37.9% of these women actually went. That's ridiculous. I mean, the thing is like I said, a busy lifestyle, the lack of knowledge, the lack of education. this is why it's important that we have this message out there, and you guys spreading that message as well. Okay, well, you know, besides that, we really do want to celebrate these bold, passionate women out here on this global platform. And I'd like to talk to Michele right now. Now, let's talk a little bit about the things that motivates you for your women in the community. Now, you're saying you're over in the States, you're 10 hours behind us. You know, you're an author of the book that is Beyond the Pink Ribbon, What I Wish I Knew Before Breast Cancer, also a nutrition health coach. Just tell us about your motivations to this community.
So when I was first diagnosed with breast cancer, luckily I have a very strong circle of family and friends, and everyone wanted to know how I was doing. And it was adding another stressor to me to try to keep everyone informed. So a friend of mine had recommended that I start a blog, and then everybody else can self-serve. So I would write my blog every day and everybody could just catch up on their on the updates of my health. But as I was blogging, I was really starting to do a lot more research about breast cancer itself, as well as lifestyle changes and how they impact your health. And the blog just sort of took off. And I started hearing from women all over the world who really needed that information, but in a way that was understandable and relatable. So having it in a story instead of a textbook or a pamphlet really seemed to connect with a lot of people. And that's what led me to become a health coach. It's what led me to write my book. And really, it's the idea that if I can help someone reduce their risk and not go through what I've gone through, then it's you know, all worthwhile. So it's really just trying to get that information out there in a way that people really value.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you there, Michele. Now, also, Julianne, let's just talk about you. You're an established banker, like we mentioned earlier on. And of course, we spoke about your life before breast cancer diagnosis. We want to know, what was your driving factor? I mean, I think a lot of you women, this has made a huge impact in your life, and you've actually gone on to do more things in the community with this. What was your driving factor when you founded Strongbold Grateful Inc.? You know, a company that really brings transformation stories through events and programs to individuals and, of course, corporations that have the power to change the way that we think, we feel, and we cope with challenges in life.
Exactly. It's because of what I went through. And I can feel that a lot of people that I speak to, just like Michele, actually want to, you know, find out about how I'm doing. But for me, it was slightly different in the sense of, how did I actually overcome this, you know, not being able to recognize myself, and then having to make that leap of leaving my, you know, wherever I was into something completely different. I think it all started when the change of sense of self started to happen. As I mentioned earlier, I could not recognize myself. And I started to ask, who am I? What am I on earth for? So all these existential questions would be something I would never have asked myself in a very busy day or a busy period. And as I started to share these personal stories on my socials, people actually started to ask, you know, how can they start? And so this prompted me to kind of use myself as an experiment. So I started to, you know, document all the things that I started to transform in my life. Little things like, for example, changing a bad habit. So one of the bad habits that I have that many people also resonated with when I shared is that there's this wine and dine lifestyle that we are quite used to in this modern day. And it can start from a very simple thing. For me, the bad habit was really just, you know, kind of rewarding myself after work. And, you know, my friends and I would go for some food, some drinks, right? Moderately. And other occasions, there would be also that wine and dine with my family. And these would be kind of just what we'll go about. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to actually change this, just like what Dr. Trishna said. Maybe that's something I could do for myself, right? Change my habits. So as I started to document this, it really did start to change the way that I perceive what a healthy lifestyle is. So it started from, being more regular with my exercises, to actually sleeping in a timely manner, to actually hydrating myself and ensuring that I have enough downtime in between appointments. So as these started to become more and more exciting and interesting, I actually started to realize that, hey, perhaps maybe these stories of personal transformations can actually be quite exciting to individuals who are in the corporations, very busy in their day, but are actually here for a training, or either that for a lunchtime talk. So I decided to infuse these different personal stories together with the other personal stories that I have heard from different people, gathering them onto a platform of Strongbold Grateful, and to pass on this hope that we can actually overcome adversities in our lives. And it all starts with just by receiving that hope that we hear of others being able to do so.
Julianne, thank you so much for that, for sharing that story and for that hope, and of course, reaching out to the community. Dr. Trishna, now, of course, we said you're a consultant for breast radiology, a radiologist. I think what's important to know is, how did you choose this path? I mean, we hear you speak so passionately about it, this path to serve women. I mean, I'm sure that likely that it has evolved over the last decade about where you started and where you are now.
It's so inspiring to hear Michele and Julianne and their work and their stories. And being a woman comes to me. Being a woman, I resonate with what a woman feels and what a woman goes through. I think a woman goes through a lot through her life in terms of her journey, her responsibilities, her priorities, her sphere of care. And what I had my own personal journey in terms of my health and pregnancies and everything. And when I went through that, I learned and I realized that how important the community of women and sisterhood is. When you receive that, you give it back. When you try to help others, what help you have received. I have not been through the breast cancer journey, but I can feel for that. And it's been almost 12 years in different roles and levels I have contributed, or I have been in the breast cancer care. And when I see how women need that care, like a woman is taking care of her family, of the emotional part, the children, the social sphere, the parenting sphere, the career sphere, the everything, but she is unattended. She needs that care. She needs to be taken care of when it comes to her vulnerabilities, because she puts herself at the bottom of her list, sometimes not even on the list. So that kind of made me feel really, really passionate about this fact that, again, when I see lives changing from what they were and they are, and not everybody has the courage to take charge of their stories and they become the heroes. They need somebody at that point, at that low point, to push them to be strong, to be enough for themselves. And there comes the fact that we can play some role. And even if I can bring that awareness to even one person and can change her mind to look after herself even a little bit better, the self-care part is really neglected. And I see that more and more when we are embracing more responsibilities as a woman, thinking that we are strong, and yes, we are strong, but the strength is also needs to be complemented with self-care. So that is where I want to fit in. And I really want to pursue this as a passion, that I can spread a word for breast cancer awareness and breast health.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Trishna, for that. Okay, well, we actually have a video right now that is going to be talking about the breast self-examination, BSE, which you may hear, and just going to be showing you how it's done and some information of where you can watch this as well at bcf.org.sg/BSE.
All women are at risk of getting breast cancer, and the chances of developing it increases with age. but we also know that early detection can save lives. Empower yourself and the women you love with the gift of early detection. Here's how to do it. Here is how you can conduct breast self-examination, or BSE in short. If you're menstruating, do the BSE 7 to 10 days after the start of your menstruation. It's simple. Just give your breasts some TLC. Touch, look, check. Begin by lying on your back. Place your right hand behind your head. With the pads of the middle index and ring fingers of your left hand, gently yet firmly press down using small motions to examine the entire right breast. Use any of the following patterns you're most comfortable with to ensure you've covered all of the breast tissue. Next, sit or stand and feel your armpit because breast tissue extends to that area. Gently squeeze the nipple, checking for discharge. Repeat the process on the left breast. Now, stand in front of the mirror with your arms by your side. Look at your breasts directly and in the mirror. Look out for the signs of breast cancers, which include 1. A painless lump in the breast or armpit. 2. Rashes around the nipple. 3. Discharge from the nipple. 4. Changes in the skin over the breast or nipple. 5. Retraction or pulling in of the nipple. Also note the shape and the outline of each breast. Check to see if the nipple turns inward. Do the same with your arms raised above your head. If you find changes or anything new in consecutive self-examinations, highlight it to your healthcare provider right away. They will then advise you of the next steps forward. Breast self-examination, just 15 minutes each month, can save lives and breasts. Be proactive about your health. BSE should always be coupled with regular mammogram screening for your age group. Help spread the word to all women you love. Encourage and remind them to take precautions suitable for their age. For more information about BSE, log on to www.bcf.org.sg.
As you can see that video, it's not rocket science. It's easy. It's simple. If you have doubts, you should always ask somebody about it. Now, mammograms, of course, are available at selected polyclinics. This is in Singapore, restructured in public hospitals, private clinics and hospitals. Also available at mammobus deployments at community centers or special arrangements by, of course, private companies as well. Just log on to bcf.org.sg/BSE to just learn more about how you can register for these mammograms, and of course, how to do your BSE. Okay, well, hearing from all these powerful women today and your stories, your journey, your fears, your hopes, and of course, how Michele and Julianne have jumped back from their crisis on Dr. Trishna's really life choice on breast radiology, and also being an advocate for breast cancer awareness. We are so grateful that we have a village out there, and you guys need to know there are people out there to help you walk through this traumatic journey with breast cancer warriors. And the Breast Cancer Foundation really wants you to know that you are not alone when you're given your prognosis. And of course, there is so much support out there. If you just log on to their website, they share a lot about the Breast Cancer Center. It has many programs as well as services such as the Benefits Advisory, Wig Loan, Positive Appearance Schemes, the support groups, as well as the befriending. Now, as Michele expressed in her book, the pink ribbons are everywhere. But what do we really want to know about breast cancer? Let's just ask our two breast cancer survivors. What do you wish that you knew about breast cancer before you got it? Julianne.
I wish I knew how traumatizing it could be, but it can also become better. Stories. I wish I knew more stories of hope that can uplift my mood and change my mood at that time, of basically people who are perhaps maybe in corporates or as a family member, different roles that we play in the society, and how these stories of other people that I wish I had known and had gone through and had shared their story. And if I could actually watch them when I was going through it myself, it would have really made me feel that I could identify with other roles. This would have really helped me.
Thank you, Julianne. And Michele, what about yourself? What did you wish you knew?
So I think the two big ones for me are, I wish I had known that there were multiple types of breast cancer. I think we tend to think of breast cancer as like one thing, but it's really not. There's many different types, and there's many variations within those types. And I think it would have been helpful to know that there are different types and how they present differently. So I like that the video we just saw actually covered some of those things. I think we're always taught to look for, the frozen pea or, something in your breast of a lump, and it's not always, it doesn't always look that way. And then the second thing, Dr. Trishna covered this quite a bit, is understanding the risk factors. I grew up learning that smoking and birth control pills would increase your risk, but I didn't know that extra weight or alcohol or stress, there's so many things that can impact your health. And I think there are a lot of things that are in our control. Not everything is, but those things that are, if we could reduce our risk and really be aware of what those risks are, I think that's huge.
Absolutely. Thank you. I just want to thank all of you guys, really, our distinguished panel here today, for sharing your stories and sharing your journey and sharing your knowledge, like with Dr. Trishna. Let's just talk about that one wrap up, that takeaway from all of this that you guys would love to share. Dr. Trishna.
I would just like to add to what Michele and Julianne said about their learning takeaway points, and just add to say that you have to understand there are two limbs. One is prevention and one is treatment. So if you have to reduce your risk factors and the other is to treat yourself better, you have to detect early. Early detection saves lives. And if we can understand and remember this, we will not ignore taking care of our breast health. We will not forget to do the breast self-examination. We will prioritize our health, and we will not forget to do our mammographic screening. It is the minimal investment in the recurring deposit of your health that you can make by doing an annual mammographic screening or whatever the screening program allows you to. So find the cancer before cancer finds you. And that is the most important thing, I feel. If you can help yourself, put yourself a priority, put your health as a priority for yourself, nothing more.
I like that one liner, find the cancer before it finds you. Julianne, what about yourself?
Data insights. So we are constantly looking for data for our corporations, or we are constantly getting the data for our socials. What about our own health data? Are we actually getting the data insights of our own insights? So proactively subscribing to test and screening ahead of time would be something that I would want to take away from this whole experience.
Thank you, Julianne. And Michele, what about yourself?
Yeah, I think I would echo what Julianne and Dr. Trishna said in terms of making yourself a priority and being your own advocate. So I think it's important to take that responsibility, take the time for yourself, listen to your body, know your body. No one's going to know that better than you, and no one else can make those changes for you. So you really, the importance of the self exam is that you learn your body. So when there is a change, you are aware of it. And then, if you get information or as I did, lack of information, nothing was showing up, just listening and being your own advocate to fight for what you need for your own health.
Thank you, Michele. And for me, I take away such important information, listening to you saying being your own advocate, for going these health screen checks. I tend to myself, think like, yeah, I know all this information. I know it's there, but I don't do anything with it, which is a lot of people are guilty with. And secondly, I say things to myself like, I have a high threshold of pain. It's fine. I'll get through it, without really thinking there is something. Am I truly listening to my body? Am I truly listening to it? And I don't have to go through it, and you don't have to go through it as the listener. We have the community here to put it through. Now, looking after yourself, like we know, doesn't mean just eating well, exercising, practicing mental health, taking time out for yourself in a very simple breast check examination, because realistically, 1 in 13 people in Singapore will develop breast cancer over the course of a lifetime. I think you have to listen to the stark reality of the statistics. It's everything. Just listening to this information, and just to remind all women out there that breast cancer affects all. It does not discriminate, like Dr. Trishna has said, and it can hit any woman at any time. So do your monthly breast self-checks if you're 40 and more, but of course, do them as well when you're in your 30s for the self-breast examinations, and go to your doctor. If you're in doubt, go to your doctor. There are no silly questions out there, and to go for your mammogram screening, because early detection, like they said, saves lives. It saves breasts. Now you can follow the Breast Cancer Foundation on their social media handles. It's super easy to find on Facebook, on the BCFSG on Instagram, as well as their website bcf.org.sg, and of course you can find your own communities if you're logging in from different countries. I just want to thank all of your women. Thank you so much for your precious time, and to wish everybody a happy International Women's Day. Thank you.
I would also like to take opportunity to thank Breast Cancer Foundation for hosting this event and having all of us here, and getting to talk to the breast cancer survivor warriors, Michele and Julianne. Thanks, Claire, for joining in. It was really a pleasure talking to you and listening to you.